Hi. So, this one. I'll do a little intro and then I'll introduce you.
Sounds good.
Alright. So, hello guys, my name is Ken from thebuttonsmashers.com, and today we have the honor of interviewing one of the majestic Michael Tatum.
Hi. Majestic. That's new.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to. May I add that to my resume?
Yes,
Awesome.
it'll be a cool one. We'll have majestic like on your name. So, how are you? Would you like to introduce yourself to?
Hi everyone. I'm Michael Tatum, as this lovely gentleman has said. I've done lots of things now, primarily voice acting and adaptive writing, and I think the number of roles I have in various anime is well over 200 now. So it's hard for me to keep track, but Sebastian from Black Butler is the big one, and then Friends from Italia, Lawrence from Spice and Wolf, and most recently Ray from Free, and a handful of others, so bunches and bunches of you. Wiki me.
But yeah, so we'll dive right into the first question. So you mentioned all of the roles that you have played so far, so which one of them was your favorite?
You know, I get asked that all the time about what's my favorite, and it's a good question, but I can never answer it because I think I'm of the opinion that as an actor, I bring something to each role, and so that it becomes every minute you're in the booth becomes a memorable experience, and so every character becomes sort of an extension of my own personality. And they become usually thereafter like an imaginary friend. Sometimes I'll talk to them in the car in traffic if no one's looking. And so I'm very close to all of them, even the little ones that were maybe like an hour's worth of work at the time. But if I pick a favorite, it's like asking to pick a favorite child or a favorite family member. So I feel like I try to avoid giving an answer for that, because I know that if I give you one, if I like say, hey Sebastian or something like that, then I'll have 80 characters in my head tonight all going, oh, you're a bastard.
Well, hopefully they won't think of that. So you worked on high-profile shows, obviously like Ouran High School Host Club and Space Dandy, Attack on Titan.
Right.
To name a few of everything that you've done. So what does it feel like to be part of something so incredible and massive in terms of the fan base and how it influences like Western anime in general?
It's awesome. I mean, I never would have thought. I mean, in this business, as an actor, you know, any sort of creative performance, you're lucky. Just you're happy for the work, because it's a very competitive business in any as just about any creative field. So whenever the work comes down the wire, you're like, oh yay, work! Thank God, I can make rent this month, But then you turn around and learn, often sometime later, how popular something you've got to be part of is now. So when I worked on like Black Butler, I had a rough idea that it had quite a fan following, but I had no idea. Nothing could prepare me for the reality of its presence and conventions and online. So I was really stoked. I love it because I don't necessarily go into it expecting something to be really popular. I try to keep myself blissfully ignorant ahead of time about what's popular so that I don't go into the performance with any preconceived notions, trying to be like, oh, okay, what do the fans want? Because I find that that's kind of death to an actor. If you try to go into it with this idea that you have to get it just right, that it makes you it makes me at least second guess myself too much, and it makes it very difficult to perform. So I try to go in with very little knowledge of the fandom itself and just kind of focus on the material. And then afterwards, if I've done my job, people don't hate me. So.
but obviously people enjoy all of your works.
Well, I've certainly met a few that do, so that's nice. And but it's a great honor. It's a great honor. I've been an anime fan since I was wee little lad. So getting to be part of it in any way is cool, but getting to be part of the shows, the really big ones that are kind of the ones that go out and grab new fans and create anime fans out of people that had never encountered or really dipped into anime before, that's the real honor, because you get to be like the gateway drug for anime noobs, so it's fun.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So with that said, you've also done ADR directing in addition to being a voice actor. So do you have any preferences between the two?
I think I enjoy the acting more. Directing is very, very stressful. I enjoy it, and I love doing anything kind of collaborative, because that's part of the fun of a creative process, of getting to work with other creative people and all of you kind of throwing in to see what comes of all these minds meeting together. I directing though is really, really time consuming, so I've backed off from it a bit to focus more on the voice acting, because there came a time when there were just so many roles coming down the wire, reprisals that were coming down the wire too, that I'm just like, I've got to focus on the voice acting, so I didn't have time to dedicate myself as I ought to have to directing, and thought, well, I'll back off of that. So now I primarily do, I did recently get back in the director's chair to help Mike McFarlane out on Tokyo Ghoul, which was a great honor. But most of the time I'm adaptive writing. That's, in fact, I do that almost as much as I voice act. I've probably written as many shows as I've been in. I wonder if there's a corollary. Maybe I tend to write characters that sound a little like me, so I get cast as them. But I do really, I enjoy all of it, because I consider the director's job, especially for ADR, for dubbing, to be very akin to acting, because let me see if I can explain it without going too far afield of my point. When you're an actor in any other kind of setting, be it stage or film or even other sorts of voice acting, like prelay animated voice acting, which is where you have several actors together acting out a scene, and you have to storyboards or whatever to grayscale, and then it's later animated to their performances. Dub actors have the opposite experience. They come in and have to work with pre-existing animation. We record in complete isolation from the other actors. We don't all come in and do it together. It's impossible to work that out because you have the timing of what we call the flaps, the mouth movements, which industry term is flaps. So the actor really has to perform in a vacuum, especially if they're the first one to lay down track on a particular scene, and all they have to go on is the Japanese and the adaptive script, because no one else is in the scene yet. So I have to imagine what the person I'm speaking to or supposed to be speaking to may sound like, or what their delivery might be. So it doesn't feel as organic often as not as say stage work or something that kind of unfolds in real time. And you also don't have the luxury of being in a costume or being on a set, that kind of adds to the imaginative reality of the scene you're supposed to be in. You're completely just in a padded room with a microphone and a script and the animation, and that's it. So the director's job is to make sure that the actor understands the subtext of what's going on in the scene, so that we can kind of tailor our performance to what we know the director will want out of everybody in the scene. And to that end, the director often has to be an actor in his or her own right in order to kind of be the rest of the cast for the actor in the scene. Not necessarily literally, but to be able to think like an actor and be like, okay, here's what you would need to know. This person's going to say their line like this, so that gives your response to that line that's not even recorded yet a different flavor. So that acting and also the adaptive writing, similar thing. As you have to go into it understanding the techniques of the vocal techniques, the breathing techniques, and the limitations of the timing in such a way that as an actor would understand them, so that you can write a line that an actor can deliver within the time given under the restrictions of the animation and make it sound realistic. So I'm performing my scripts at home all the time just to make sure that they can be performed out loud without the actor passing out or that it fits the flaps. And so I find that directing and adaptive writing and acting in the dubbing industry are all kind of part of the same bag of tricks. So they're all just kind of different facets of the same skill set. So I find that if you can kind of focus on any one of them, you kind of end up branching out eventually either way, and you become a better director by being an actor, and you become a better actor by having experience as a director and a writer, and so on and so forth. So they all kind of go back and loop on and inform each other, and until hopefully you get pretty good at all of them. So yeah, I definitely prefer the writing, I think, though, because it's really fun then I get to play all the characters.
Yeah.
Because I'm writing them all, so.
I'm guessing that both are also really rewarding professions.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the writing, what I love is that I love working with other actors, but if you can write material for them that they come back to and say, oh, that was so much fun, your scripts are so much fun, there's so much, I really feel like they give me a lot to work with. That's always a good feeling when actors come back and compliment your writing.
Yeah. Right. So in addition to voice acting and ADR directing, you're also part of an amazing podcast, That Anime Show.
Oh yeah.
It was really good.
Thank
and
you.
what were your
4 years we did.
Yeah.
4 years.
It was such a long time. I started 3 years ago. But
Wow.
so what were the fondest memories that you had working with these people?
Terry and Stephen, who are my my cohorts on the show. That show was really Terry's baby. She was the brainchild, or really the brain trust, I should say, behind all of it. I just kind of showed up and talked. That's all I did. And Steven, of course, was the indispensable engineer and with his own personality, which was great fun. Some of my favorite memories of just kind of sitting there and talking with our friends. I mean, these were all people, the people we interviewed were all people we knew quite well. And we thought, hey, let's get them in and just kind of, just chew the fat for a little while, because they don't often get the chance to do that. When you're at a con, like I am now, it's all well and good, but obviously because you and I don't have a history of friendship together, the interview is going to be a little different than if we're sitting, we've known each other for years and we're like, having this discussion over beers. So we had this idea of like, wow, we'll just get all these people we know and just have a few drinks or something and just kind of record these sort of archival interviews, just to kind of get some fans out there, kind of get to know these actors that are behind some of their favorite characters that don't often make appearances at conventions or whatnot, because these actors are off doing other things and aren't really on the radar when it comes to conventions, so they don't really have a lot of interactions with the fans. And that was really a lot of fun. I think some of my fondest memories, though, were having people like Monica on. Of course, Monica Rail is a dear friend of mine, and she's also one of the funniest people I've ever met. So whenever she gets to come on and really kind of get out of her comfort zone of being sort of hi, happy, which she's great at, of course, but when she's able to come out of that and be a little more saucy, she's great fun. The interviews with Jamie Markey, the Halloween episodes are some of my favorites, because we kind of got as many people as we could to get involved, and getting to work with Ian and the gang was really just very rewarding, very much fun. I have very fond memories of that. I do miss doing it, but I also think it was very important that we stopped while we were having fun with it, because I didn't want us to wear out our welcome or for it to become one of those things that we just couldn't stand doing anymore, so that we would have wound up with a season or two of stuff that just was kind of faked. Yeah. So we thought, well, let's quit while we love it, so that we'll leave behind 4 years of stuff that we really enjoy doing, and then hopefully that comes through to the audience. But we do miss it. We do miss it. Terry and I and Stephen often kind of get together and be like, remember when?
A lot of people.
Yeah.
So on that note, there are also many websites, including the website I work on, feature podcasts. So are there any tips that you would like to give people who do make podcasts or would like to start?
I think just from my own experience, which of course is relatively limited in the podcast sphere, but I think the best advice I can give anyone is just be real. I think fans really respond to people that are authentic and that aren't overperforming, that aren't trying too hard to present a certain side of themselves. They're just kind of they're relaxed and they're kind of at ease with the idea that, hey, people are complicated, so let's just sit down and talk, and to just have fun with it. I think that's the whole idea. One of the great things about social media and kind of the internet and all, and YouTube and blogging and podcasts and all that great stuff, is because it's really democratized this kind of just kind of entertainment journalism. I think it's really a lot of fun. Anyone can do it, so long as you just have the means and some time and some content. So I just encourage people to kind of take that, for all it's worth, and just kind of come into it. Give it. People are looking for you when they, that's if you're trying to sell yourself, just be yourself. I think when it comes down to it, people are less interested in what you think they want to hear. They're more interested in just what you have to say from the heart. Yeah.
So just essentially be yourself.
Don't
go with
you. Do you, boo.
Okay. Now, with all these roles, of course, you're a really busy guy. All of the voice acting roles and all the ADR directing. How do you manage your time?
Badly. I'm very disciplined, which I never ever thought I'd hear myself say, but I suppose I really am. So my typical day consists of getting up and cooking breakfast early, and then I go to the gym and then come home, and if I don't have vocal work until later in the afternoon, I'll spend the first part of my day writing a script. I'll go into the studio, record, come home, do a little more writing, and dinner and all that stuff. So thank God I have an agent, and an agency is worth their weight in gold, especially mine. The ladies that work with me are very awesome at keeping my time for me. So they'll be like, oh, you're supposed to be here, oh, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. So I just pretty much they point and I go to where they tell me. And luckily though, it helps if you really believe in what you do. And I really, really believe in what I do. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the writing. I enjoy beginning to breathe life into the English versions of these shows, because I think, you know, the material is there, and I think if I can delve for a moment into my philosophy of what we do. I mean, what we do is very kind of unusual when you think about it. You know, we're taking content that exists in another language and we're bringing it over here and trying to give it to an audience that does not speak the tongue that it is written in. And that entails really having to deal with the remarkable differences between both languages when it comes to poetic expression or you know, dramatic expression, because there's a world of difference in the way, not only the way the languages work grammatically, you know, the differences between English and Japanese are profound. So there's never just like a one-to-one relationship between this expression and its equivalent over in England or in English. It's very complicated. There's a lot of things that don't quite connote across the ocean. But there's something about the original material always, of course, that transcends the language barrier. And so an adapter, you know, be they an actor, a director, or a writer, kind of goes into it looking for that element, that thing that makes the story applicable universally, regardless of what language you speak. And then we mine that for the adaptive process and try to bring it into English. Often we used to come under a great deal of fire from the sort of dub haters, which thankfully have kind of shrunk over the years, I think, as dubs have gotten better and better. For changing stuff, people wouldn't understand. Well, they say this in the subtitle version. Why don't you say this? And we're like, well, because it's difficult, you know, for anyone with an ear for the way English works. That line doesn't sound natural the way it's delivered. So we have to change things up a little bit. But we're preserving the content, we're preserving the subtext, we're preserving the meaning. The greatest example I can think of that is when it comes to like a funny line. People are like, well, why did you change it? Well, because, you know, the sub should tell you. My philosophy is that the sub should tell you what was being said in Japanese, but the dub should make you laugh, because that's the intention of the original creators. You know, they want that moment to be funny, or they want this moment to be very dramatic and tear-jerking. So what would work for an English-speaking audience? So getting to kind of be part of that process is fun, because it gets to, I think a work of art is a work of art because it can transcend things like geography and language barriers and whatnot. It becomes universal for everyone, regardless of their specific circumstances. And being able to prove that an anime has that kind of crossover power by giving it a home in English and making it sound like it belongs just as much there as it does in its own mother language is really very rewarding, because I get to say, see, don't you understand? Like ultimately, we want people to be able to watch the Japanese version and the English version and the French version and the Spanish version, you know, and get the same basic experience as anyone would, you know. So it's really fun to be part of that, because you're bringing these shows to a much larger audience, and so they're getting to kind of fulfill their destiny in a way, you know.
Exactly.
So it's great. I love it.
And a lot of people do enjoy it a lot more if they do get the dub. A lot of people await for those things.
Yeah, and that's clear. Like the fan base is really, really very supportive of that, and sometimes they have to wait a while for the dub to come out. You know, they can't be made overnight, though they are coming out quicker these days. But it's really fun to be part of that. It's really fun to give people a sort of transportive experience. That's the appeal of acting in general. But it's great when you're having to work and getting to work with. I look at it as an actor, I look at it like being on stage when you're taking up. It's very rare that on stage that you get to originate a role. You're often playing a character that's been done thousands of times. You know, like I'm certainly not the first person to play Hamlet, for example. You know, but you feel as an actor that you get to sort of touch this role, and in so doing, bringing your own personality to something that is many actors have touched. And so you're part of this huge continuum, this kind of family of personalities that have all given something of themselves to this role. And it's really fun to think of yourself as part of that universe. I ramble. I do ramble, so please feel free to interrupt me.
It was quite insightful. So obviously you're right here at Anime North for Saturday for a panel, and for also you had an autograph signing this morning. So what makes you come back over and over again to conventions? Is it the fans? Is it the feeling of being in a convention?
It's really one of my favorite things about what I get to do for a living. It's voice acting is kind of a lonely profession. It's not like other sorts of, you know, if I were a television personality, you know, or a movie personality, I would be recognized, you know, and I walk down the street and be like, oh hey, you're in movie I loved, like think of Chris Hemsworth, can't even go to the store without someone going, oh, Thor! Which is a good problem to have for him, I suppose. But voice actors don't tend to be known by name or by face. We're known for our voices, but people might grow up going, oh, I know that character, I know that commercial, I know the movie guy that does those voices, but you couldn't say them by name. When it comes to anime, though, it's very different. The anime fans are extremely loyal and extremely enthusiastic about what we do, and they know us by name and by face. Which is kind of an oxymoron. As a voice actor, we're not used to that kind of attention. And so it's really cool. I mean, I try to be very realistic and humble about it. I mean, oftentimes it's because I've had the great good fortune of being able to take on roles that fans already have a very deep relationship with. And so if I just don't screw it up, I'm golden, But, for example, like a lot of people love me for playing Sebastian in Black Butler, which is a great honor to do. And it's a fantastic show, and I absolutely love it. And Sebastian will be with me for the rest of my life, and that's also a good problem to have. But I didn't make Sebastian. Sebastian made me, So I'm here because Sebastian was kind enough to let me voice him, and the fans were kind enough to say, hey, good, you didn't screw it up, way to go. And that's very tricky, coming in and taking up the mantle of a character that the fans already have a very profound relationship with. And I try to be very cognizant of that, and I try to honor that. So getting to come to conventions and seeing that enthusiasm is wonderful, because it also, I believe, getting deep here for a moment, I believe that the whole point of whether it be reading or play going or anime watching or film watching, it's all, at the end of the day, we do this, we engage in artistic endeavors, either as artists or as audiences or something of both, because we can't ever really get to know enough people or even ourselves as deeply as we might like. And so what's really great about anime fans is the cosplay ends up being an expression of that philosophy, because what's great about walking around an anime convention is I see all these people dressed up as characters, as people, or aliens, or creatures, or whatever, but characters, creatures with feelings and thoughts and histories. I don't see anyone cosplaying a plot twist or an explosion, they're into the personality of it, the humanity of it, and that is so deeply gratifying for me as an actor, because that's the appeal of acting in the first place, is getting to sort of take on a myriad of perspectives of just what the human condition is. And so getting to celebrate that with your fans at a convention is absolutely the best thing about what I get to do for a living. Otherwise, without the fans, I'm just a crazy guy in a padded room making funny voices, so.
But those are really good voices anyway, so it's up.
Thank you.
Speaking of being a voice actor, what advice would you like to give to people who aspire to become?
Be actors. Be actors first. Acting is a very deep and involved craft. It's very tempting to think that just because you enjoy it or because you really want to do it that you'll be good at it, but it takes a long time. It takes years of training, and acting in particular is one of those things that, if actors are really good at what they do, they make it look very easy, and it's not. It's actually very, very hard. Voice acting even more so than other types of acting, because it's like being asked to do something, but you have only one tool to do it with. Like, build a house, here's a hammer, and that's all you get. Because when I'm in the booth trying to breathe life into this character, I can't use my face or my body, or at least it doesn't count, because my voice is the only thing coming through. So if I don't know how to channel or marshal all of my energies into just my voice, I'm screwed. So on stage, it's different. You have costumes, you have your movements, your gesture, the electricity of a live audience there to kind of feed you. So it's a very different kind of acting. Voice acting is so rigorously specific that if you don't have a background in stage or camera work or some kind of more organic, traditional acting, you'll be dead in the water when voice acting, because you'll sound flat and like you're sort of insular and even a bit narcissistic. You'll sound like you're just talking to hear yourself talk and not actually responding to the other characters. So anyone that wants to become a voice actor, that's awesome, more power to them, but be an actor first. That's the operative term in voice actor. So take stage classes, take workshops, be leery of people that promise you, for $1,000 that they'll make you an overnight sensation. That's BS. But I mean, look up and find the reputable teachers and go take classes. Get back to the basics. I still take classes. I've been doing this for my God, since I was a little boy, and I've been voice acting for about 10 of those years. But I still take classes, and I still go back to the basics all the time because there's as many philosophies and as many approaches to the craft of acting as you can possibly imagine, and they're all fascinating and they're all interesting. But you can spend a lifetime finding out which one speaks to you the most. So go out there, and it's all about learning. It's all about learning. Keep yourself educated. You don't have to have a fancy degree. You don't have to go to the best acting school and wherever, blah, 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 blah. But you do need to put yourself out there. You do need to take the risk, and you do need to accept the reality of the actor's life, which is you're always auditioning. Always auditioning, and you're always learning.
Thank you. Very insightful message from it. It's really inspiring.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
So final question, this is taken from Twitter. We asked our fans which question they would like to ask, and they would like to know how you feel about your role as Ray for the Freedom, because a lot of people are really, really hyped about that.
I love it. I got to work as the lead adaptive writer for free as well, bringing it over into English, so that was a great deal of fun. And while I was writing the scripts, which of course is done well in advance of the recording, I saw Ray and thought, something tells me I'm going to be playing him. I just had this feeling. I'm like,
Is it the glasses?
The glasses, his attitude, the fact that the fact that his stroke is the butterfly, and that his totem animal is a penguin. All of these things apply to me in a weird way, because I've always loved penguins. I kind of consider penguins my weird totem animal. That sounds bizarre to say. For the longest time, people just knew if you didn't know what else to get me for Christmas, get him a stuffed penguin. I used to collect them. Not anymore. Stop giving me penguins. I have enough. But I always loved penguins, and I was actually on the swim team when I was in high school, years ago, and so I did the butterfly. I wasn't as good as Ray, but I was. But I was like, I'm watching this, going, oh my God, it's like the Japanese are daring me not to play him. So it's great fun. Again, another fan favorite that I actually got really into watching the show as I was writing it. There were several scenes where I would find myself a grown-ass man just sitting here typing, watching these wonderful performances by the original seiyuu and finding myself, moved to tears, going, I'm never gonna swim together again. And I'm like going, I am 38 years old and I'm crying at this, but that's how effective it is. So I looked forward to bringing it to life in English, and when we got the chance to finally, when I was told I was going to play Ray, I was like, yay! Of course I'm playing Ray. I feel like I know him, so I get it.
And finally, on that note, what can fans expect from the Freedom?
I think they can expect some great things. It's a really stellar cast, if I do say so myself. It's Funimation really pulled out the big guns for the dub. They have a great crew, a great cast that we all love working with each other, and we had a lot of fun writing it. It's a good show, and I think Funimation pulled out all the stops to try to honor bringing it over into English, which of course is a great privilege. So definitely.
So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
It's been a real honor interviewing you. And
thank you.
So that's it for me right now. So it has been Ken again for thebuttonsmashers.com, and make sure to check out the website for the rest of my coverage of Anime North. And until then, I'll see you guys in the future. Bye.